NVIDIA showed off their new Blackwell architecture in their 50 series, and the stats they presented in the keynote sound very promising. For example, the 5070 should have the same performance as the 4090. What the hell is going on there? Some benchmarks, for example, the 4090 on max FPS with an i9 13900K gets around 200 FPS on Dust 2. So should you get that performance for basically a quarter of the price? Yeah, it's not that easy. As always, NVIDIA is a bit cheating with their numbers. I would say let's talk about that and what could be the right choice to make if you want to upgrade and get better performance in CS2. And don't forget that I'm giving away this beautiful knife at the end of the month. Information in the description down below, and I also have some other interesting events in the Discord. And now back to the video. One thing that is true is that we're gonna get a better performance out of the 50 series cards than the 40 series cards. That is obviously true. However, if we remove all of that special AI stuff, it is way less than presented. One thing that we already know thanks to AMD's frame gen being in CS2 is yes, you can get more FPS. However, if they implement that feature also on NVIDIA cards, it's not going to be the answer for everything, especially if latency is one of the key factors you're building your setup around. Let's quickly explain how frame gen works. This is going to be very simplified. Basically what happens, a frame is generated, then another frame is generated. However, before that second frame is pushed to the monitor, the game analyzes both frames, finds what could happen in between, so to create a smoother transition, and then once it's done that, it pushes those two frames out and you have more frames. A video from Vex basically shows you in detail how everything works. I highly suggest you to watch it after this video. And yes, he compares it in Cyberpunk, which is completely another game than CS2. However, the latency factor still is there and not as big as in Cyberpunk since we have more frames in general. However, let's add the multiple frame generation into the factor here. And again, now you see you have 3 frames in between 2 real frames. You're basically generating even more fake frames. And now slowly, even with the higher FPS, you are gonna increase the latency here. Even with their new reflex feature they have shown off, at the end of the day, it's all gonna be relying on how your FPS move. And we have seen in multiple videos that depending on what is happening on the screen, your FPS can drop dramatically in CS2. I think we all remember when Train came out and the water effects tanked your FPS. And now imagine adding that multi-frame gen to that. I think you can see where I'm going with this. What I'm basically trying to tell you is don't jump on the high train with their new AI features thinking that you could have that also in CS2 and seeing that frame counter go higher than 500, maybe even hitting 1000. But at the end of the day, if your experience isn't smooth and you notice latency, you will basically turn it off and you might have a feeling that you just got ripped off. If you want to spend that money, go for it. More power to you. We all know the prices, for example, here in Europe are going to be more expensive than showed off in the keynote. I think that's also without taxes if I'm correct, because well, that's an American thing to do. And normally the prices presented on the German websites, for example, are not the ones that we're going to see in the store. It could be even higher. So if you don't mind buying used, wait for all of the graphics cards to come out. Look on eBay and see if you can snag a good deal. For example, I remember when the 40 series came out, which was around October, I waited half a year and then I bought a used 3080 Supreme for I think 450 euros, and that card served me well. So if you don't mind doing the same thing, you are going to save a lot on the used market. And remember, CS2 is a CPU intensive task, so if that is your primary game, keep that in mind. So what are you rocking, and are you considering the upgrade to the 50 series, or are you waiting for the used prices to fall? I just recently upgraded my GPU, so I'm not gonna do that. And as always, don't forget about the giveaway in the description below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys on the next one.